Welcome, welcome. I will give a couple of seconds for everybody to get logged in. As you log in, I would love to know where the viewers are from tonight. So while I'm giving everybody some time to log in, if you want to go ahead and type in where you're watching this Periscope from, I would love to know. Andrea, that's one of my teachers. Thanks for being here. Indiana. Hey, Brent. My mom is here. Montana. Man, lots of great. Paul's here too. Wow, I feel like I have lots of friends here tonight. Canada, Keller. Oh, I love the Keller area. Indiana, Kansas, Katy ISD, Miami. Awesome. Well, welcome to Chapter 5, discussion of Kids Deserve It. I'm a little more dressed up than normal tonight, and I'll kind of talk about it a little bit here in a little bit with kind of some of the stuff I'm wearing today. But this topic tonight is over Chapter 5, which is called Make That Phone Call. And you know, it's funny how this was one of the first chapters that Adam and I actually wrote for the book. And it's one of our favorite stories to tell others when we talk about things that Adam and I have kind of done together. So I'll give you a little backstory over Make That Phone Call and how this chapter happened. And I would love to encourage you as well to share out this Periscope by sliding across and sharing it on Twitter or Facebook or with your followers. I would greatly appreciate it. So thanks, Brent. Anyway, Make That Phone Call. So I was in my office before school had started, and Adam knows how much I look up to and respect Ron Clark, and Adam does as well. And I had seen this Periscope a few weeks before of one of my great friends, Chris Pombano, who is a teacher in Florida. Ron Clark and his whole staff had surprised Chris at school. They drove up in their big red bus. It was amazing, such a cool Periscope to watch. And so as I was watching that Periscope, I was talking to Adam, saying, oh, and that's so awesome that Ron did that. And so a few weeks or a month later, I'm sitting in my office before school starts, and I get a phone call. And it's my secretary, and she says, hey, I've got somebody on the phone for you. And I said, okay, who is it? And she said, well, it's Ron Clark. And I said, who? And she said, Ron Clark. And I said, okay, patch him through. Because I'm thinking, really, Ron Clark is calling my phones? Yeah, right. So I answer the phone, and it says, somebody's answering, they say, hey, it's Ron Clark. Hey, Todd, how's it going? And I'm sitting there going, there's no way this is Ron Clark. There's no way that Ron Clark is calling me. He has even no idea. There's no way he would be calling me at my school. And I'm listening, I'm going, I know Ron Clark's voice because I've talked to him several times, and this sounds like him, but not really like him. But I didn't really think anything of it. And so I'm going, he's like, is this Todd? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, how's it going? I said, fine. And then he was like, hey, I'm outside. And I was like, no, you're not. And then he was like, okay, just kidding. This is Adam. And I was like, Adam, I'm going to kill you. Because like for a brief second, I actually did think it was Ron Clark. And so then I always tweet out everything. My family always tells me, don't tweet that whenever they do something embarrassing. And so I tweeted out right away. I was like, oh, you know, Adam thought he got me, but he pretended to be Ron Clark, but I didn't really fall for it. And I tagged Ron in the tweet. And Ron tweets back, and he's like, that's hilarious. I just tried to call you and nobody answered. And I was like, oh, ha, 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 Ron, that's really funny. And he's like, no, I really have tried to call 3 times. So I run up front, and I see my secretary, and I'm like, were you up here the whole time? She's like, no, I had to go do some things in the copy room, but I just came back up. And I was like, was the phone ringing? And she was like, yeah, but I didn't make it in time. And I was like, oh my gosh, was Ron Clark really calling me? And so then it rings again. And she's like, it says Georgia. And I was like, okay, answer the phone. It's got to be Ron Clark. So I run back to my office. She transfers the call through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Ron, I cannot believe. And so Ron and I talked for like 15 minutes. It was such a cool moment. I was like dying on the inside that one of my educator heroes took the time out of his day to actually call me just because I tweeted out that somebody did a prank on me. And so he was like, you know what? They don't mess with Todd. Because Ron and I had met before at his academy. And we had kept in contact and we had communicated several times, and I'd seen Ron at a couple conferences and we talked, so we kind of knew who each other was. And so Ron was like, you know what, they don't mess with Todd. He's like, give me Adam's number. I'm gonna call him and give him a hard time. And I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah, give me his number. So I gave him his number. Then Adam's sitting in a meeting and he gets out of the meeting because he sees the Georgia phone call, so he knows that I'm probably doing this. And so Ron talked to him, gave him a hard time too. And it was just one of those that Adam and I still sit and laugh about, because I couldn't believe that friggin' Ron Clark called my school and talked to me. And it was such a neat moment. And you know, we talk about in this chapter about the power of making those phone calls and the power of how, you know, it was such a big deal for me to have somebody that I really respect and look up to give me a call. And one thing I love that Adam does is Adam will take like one day a week and he'll find somebody on Twitter who's been tweeting that they love KDI or something, and he'll just give them a call at their work. He'll figure out where they work and he'll just give them a call, and just tell them, hey, thanks for reading the book, thanks for all you're doing. And it's one of those that just neat moments. And you know, when I took over the campus that I'm at now, Webb Elementary, there were a lot of discipline problems. And I am not a believer in a treasure box. As the principal, I said I was never going to have one of those treasure boxes. I don't want to give kids this monetary reward where they just can, or they get this little sticker or a pencil. I hate that kind of stuff. And so I said, you know, I really want them to work for that intrinsic motivation where they're getting celebrated for making the right decisions, because we were being a school that was focusing so much on the kids who weren't making the right decisions. So I came up with this hats off idea. I'd seen these hats off cards that were Dr. Seuss cards, and I was like, hey, let's take and run with this. So every week I give my teachers 6 hats off cards and encourage them to give them to kids for doing incredible things. When a kid gets a hats off card, what they do is they get to come to the office, and one of us administrators, we get to call home with the student and celebrate them. So amazing to be able to call a parent and say, hey, it's Mr. Neslony, I'm the principal at Webb, I've got so-and-so up in my office. And hey Jonah, Brent, you're distracting me. Anyway, so I've got so-and-so in my office, but they're not in trouble, because the parents always think they're in trouble when we're calling. And they're like, oh, okay, good. And I said, you know what, your kid got a hats off card from so-and-so. We just wanted to celebrate them and tell you how proud of them we are and how great of a job they're doing. And usually it's, oh, thanks so much. And I'm always said, do you want to talk to them? And I love when the parents just get to tell their kids how much they love them, how proud of them, because I can tell you what, our kids work harder for those hats off cards than anything else we could have offered. Any treasure box, any bouncy ball sticker, pencil, they love those positive phone calls. Then I keep all the hats off cards, and the next morning on the announcements, I read off every hats off card from the kids. And on Fridays, I draw 20 out of our stack, and they get to come do something special with me. It's been so much great to do, so much fun to do. Something that I started after doing that is I realized, you know, we celebrate kids so much, and that's really important in a school, but often what happens in a school is we forget to also celebrate the adults, and I think that's equally important. And so we try to work really hard at my campus to celebrate the adults as well. And something that I've got to do that I absolutely love is I've started giving out hats off cards to teachers and different staff members. And so I'll give them a hats off card for something that I've seen that I thought was really exceptional, and I say, come see me during your conference. And they come in during my conference and we call. And my favorite call was the first one I did. It was for my assistant principal, Aaron. It was to his mom. And I said, who do you want me to call? And he was like, are you serious? And I said, yes, who do you want me to call? And he said, I guess my mom. And I said, okay, come over. So we went over to the phone, I called, and I said, Miss Marvel, I said, this is Todd Neslony. I'm the principal at Webb where your son works. And she goes, okay. And I said, I was just calling you, he's in my office, but it's for great reasons. I do it exactly like the kids. And I say, you know, I said, he's been doing this exceptional job. I'm really proud of him. Thank you for raising the son that you did. And I love, because she was like, oh, I love him so much. And you could just see him with his head down in the back like, oh, this is so embarrassing. But it's such a cool moment to get to have your parent celebrate you and to get that moment where you could feel celebrated by them. And so I've absolutely loved doing that with my staff. And if they have a parent that's not alive anymore, or they always get to pick who we call. And so it's been so great. I haven't got to do it yet this year, but I'm actually planning on doing one tomorrow. So I'm super excited to be able to start making more of those phone calls for the adults, just as important as we make them for kids. And so looking back at the chapter as well, you know, one of the things we talk about is as educators, we know we have about 1,000 things on our plate, and we are trying to juggle so many different balls and trying to make sure that we keep everything in track, and it's hard. But one of the most important things I think we can do as educators is make those calls home. And if you can't make a call home, send a postcard, write a letter, do something special that recognizes that child for their what they've done that's great. And before you make that negative phone call home, it's always better to make the positive one first, because you never know the power that that positive phone call is. And I remember my first year when I got to call home and make that phone call, and I remember the very first kid that I called. His mom didn't answer, and I knew he was a difficult student, and that's why I was kind of making the phone call to set that standard from the beginning. And he said, "Wow," because I had to leave a voicemail, and I said, "What?" And he said, "My mom is gonna hug me really big tonight." And that just melted my heart, just to know that he was so excited that he was going to get a really big hug that night because somebody called home to say something positive about him, and those calls didn't happen very often. And I can't tell you how many parents we've had in tears over the phone who their kids have either never been celebrated, and not even because their kids were bad, just because their kids were that kids who always made the right decision, who was quiet in class, who was easy to look over, but they had never been celebrated. And so it's really important that we not just focus on the kids that are difficult, but also the kids that don't get celebrated because they do it right all the time. Those kids deserve to have those moments where they are celebrated as well. And so when I think about how amazing it felt to have Ron Clark call me, I try to do the same and call people as well and to celebrate them, because it really does make a big difference. Now, when I started this Periscope, I said that I would show you my pants. So let me switch the camera. So yes, these are my pants today. They are bright orange pants. And I am wearing bright orange pants because we have taken a play out of the Ron Clark playbook. They do the house system at their campus, and it's kind of based after the Harry Potter houses. And when we went to RCA, fell in love with the house system, wanted to come back and tie it into our hats off and our champs and the other things that we're doing. And so we actually introduced our kids with their induction ceremonies on Friday to the 5 houses that we have at our campus. We have orange, yellow, green, red, and purple. Purple is Pendana, which means the House of Love, and each one of these is based off a different country. So we've got South America, American Indian, Europe, Asia, and South Africa. And so we've got purple, which is Pendana, which means the House of Love. We have red, which is Gambaru, which means tenacity. We have orange, which is my house, which is Enas, which means we are one. We've got green, which is Vendos, which is the House of Welcoming. And we have yellow, which is Ohitika, which means bravery. And so we talk the kids through, we let them know what houses they're in, and for the rest of their career at Webb, they're in those houses. And so every Wednesday is House Spirit Day. So of course, if I'm gonna be the leader of the orange house, I'm gonna be decked out in orange. So I actually went online and bought this orange suit. So I've got a whole suit, but I just wore my orange pants. A special, amazing orange pants today. Kids loved it. People couldn't, they just ate it up. But we do that. We have a once a month house games that we do every last Friday of the month. And we do points all week for great things that they were doing. You can learn more about this by downloading the Ron Clark Academy app and searching the house system on there. Hope King, Wade King, Kim Bearden, Daniel Thompson, Ron Clark, all of them are really great people to go to for resources for this as well, because we completely take this from them. And so I always give credit back to them because they are brilliant geniuses, and Hope and Wade really helped us out with implementing some of these things. So I hope you enjoyed our discussion over Make That Phone Call. We have our Twitter chat at 8 o'clock tonight in just a couple minutes, so I hope you can join that at #KidsDeserveIt. And check out our website if you want any of the details, or if you want a Kids Deserve It bracelet. We've got those on our website as well as stickers and autographed books, and t-shirts will be back up for sale in about a week or so. So hope you have a great week. I will talk to you next week as we discuss Chapter 6.